On this episode of Time About the Movies, Blue Sky Studios is back with their latest film. The creators of Ice Age now take us to Rio through the eyes of two macaws voiced by Jesse Eisenberg and Anne Hathaway. We also have the somewhat anticipated fourth installment of the Scream series, but hey, Scream 3 wasn't a great movie overall, so maybe Wes Craven coming back one last time could turn the tide around. We'll take a look and see for ourselves. We also have Robert Redford directing The Conspirator with James McAvoy among the star-studded cast. And also we have Atlas Shrugged Part 1, because clearly this beloved book that everybody loves had to be turned into not just one movie, but two. Yeah, we're going to talk about these in a little bit here. But, hey, April 15th, 2011, the midway point of the month, it's Time About the Movies. And welcome to Time About the Movies. We are taking a look at the four films of April 15th, 2011, and we begin with our first movie here, the biggest new release of the weekend, of course, and that is Rio. And in this film, when Blue, voiced by Jesse Eisenberg, a domesticated macaw from small-town Minnesota, meets the fiercely independent Jewel, voiced by Anne Hathaway, he takes off on an adventure through Rio de Janeiro with the bird of his dreams. Leslie Mann, Rodrigo Santoro, Jermaine Clement, George Lopez, Tracy Morgan, Jamie Foxx, Will.i.am, and Jake T. Austin are also among the voice cast in this. This is kind of an interesting one for me, because this is one where I didn't go into this with the highest of expectations. I mean, I like Blue Sky Studios' work up to this point. I mean, everything they had done to this point ranged from really good to okay, I guess, like Ice Age, Dawn of the Dinosaurs, and, Horton Hears a Who, stuff like that. But, this is a movie where I really didn't go into it with a lot of expectations. I thought it was just going to be another, pop culture-filled, bad comedic pun-filled animated film, like what happened with Horton Hears a Who, which I did like that movie, but, yeah, it was still disappointing to see some of the stuff they threw in there, but this all of a sudden really became probably my favorite Blue Sky Studios movie up to this point, because it's not what I thought it would be. I mean, you do get those predictable bad comedy puns with Tracy Morgan's dog character in here, and there are the pop culture references, but they weren't as many as I thought they were going to be. And I think why I love this so much is that they did a good job making this film feel like a film that Disney would have put out. And coincidentally, later in the decade, they would eventually be bought up by Disney, but it's got musical numbers, vibrant animation, very likable characters. I mean, this is right up there with Rango as the best animated film of the year. I mean, Rango's at the top, but this is definitely right up there in a very lackluster year for animated films, if you will. It was not a good year for animation in general, but then again, it wasn't a great year for movies in general. But Rio did really feel like a good Disney movie that wasn't made by Disney. It's the one thing. There's one thing that I didn't like about it. I would say it's the story. It's a very predictable story. You got two different creatures that at first hate each other, and then they're going to eventually fall for each other, and then there's going to be that big third act breakup before they have to get back together again. I mean, we've seen this done before so many times. And yeah, we just had it recently with Alpha and Omega, which, needless to say, this is certainly a hell of a lot better than Alpha and Omega was, but with Rio, you can kind of let it pass because everything else about the movie is just so good. The movie works because of how gorgeous the animation looks. I mean, it does a great job of making the city of Rio de Janeiro look as beautiful as it does, look as vibrant as it does. The musical numbers are really good. You like all the characters around. It's a terrific movie. It's an incredible movie. It's a really damn good film. It's one of my favorite Blue Sky Studio movies they've ever made. And they have made a lot of good movies, but this is definitely very high up in their best ones yet. I mean, this is a film that I can't recommend enough. Seek the first Rio out. It's a really good movie. Second one, not so much. We'll get to eventually that one 3 years down the road. But Rio 1, still a great movie after all these years. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Scream 4.
Scream 4, rated R.
Back in the day when people just made pointless sequels for the sake of pointless sequels, but then again, someone makes a sequel because the last movie didn't work out so well, which was the case with Scream 3. Scream 3 was not a big hit, and actually was the death killer for the series in general, so, I mean, it makes sense to try to go back and at least give this a more serviceable conclusion than the previous movie did, and also maybe try to start anew with this, but, In this film, it takes place on the 15th anniversary of the original Woodsboro murders from Scream and involves Sidney Prescott, once again played by Neve Campbell, who returns to town after 10 years, where Ghostface once again begins killing students from Woodsboro High. Like its predecessor, Scream 4 combines the violence of the slasher genre with elements of black comedy and whodunit mystery to satirize the cliches and film remakes. The film also provides commentary on the extensive use of social media and the obsession with internet fame. And the tropes are definitely in this one. You've got scenes where, the opening of the movie, you have to have the scene where you have to kill off two people that are recognizable names. You got Kristen Bell and also Anna Paquin in the beginning, and they get killed off by the Ghostface killer. And then, the main characters in this are a lot of notable names. Emma Roberts, Hayden Panettiere, Alison Brie, Adam Brody, Rory Culkin. I mean, there are a lot of notable names in this movie. And then you bring in some of the veterans in here, too. David Arquette is back, Neve Campbell's back, Courtney Cox is back. You got Anthony Anderson as one of the cops in here. Surprised Jamie Kennedy didn't come back for this. I mean, what's Jamie Kennedy really doing at this point, honestly? But it's a movie that I think is definitely a much better film than it was to see back then, because it didn't get the best reviews overall. I mean, it was mostly forgotten and didn't really make much of an impact at the box office, but I'll tell you this, it was certainly a much better movie than Scream 3 was. Scream 3, I think, is still the worst one of the series. It's because at least with this, you got an idea that, okay, they're trying something new with it. It's been 11 years since the last movie. You can do stuff now because times have changed. We use the internet. We have the internet. We have social media. And that can be brought into this movie. The film almost makes it work, but it sadly doesn't cut it in the end. And that really kind of bummed me out when I finally got to watch this again. Because I did enjoy it, but at the same time, it still had a lot of stuff where it's just like, you could see where they were going to go with this, like elevate this movie to the same level as it did with the previous film, with the first movie. And then, funny enough, they had a Scream TV series on MTV, which was actually surprisingly really good. And then we got the fifth Scream movie done by the guys at what is it? Radio Silence. Radio Silence, yeah. And that movie actually turned out to be a whole lot better than I think a lot of people really expected it to be, especially for me, since I hadn't seen those movies until very late on. Like, I didn't start seeing these films until after the last Scream film came out, in 2023, so it took me a while to really figure it out. And I got to it late, but this one is definitely better than Scream 3, but it's still not. I still wouldn't say it's a great movie overall. It's still a film that's at least trying to do something different, and give it a little bit of an element pushed compared to the previous film. And hey, one of Wes Craven's last films he ever did before he passed away. In fact, is this the last thing he did? I don't think it is, but yeah, it's the last thing he directed. Yeah, so hey, at least it's going on a better note than something like My Soul to Take. I mean, that movie was just an abomination on so many levels. But this, it's still not as good as the first two movies, but it's still better than Part 3. You gotta give it that, and it at least sets the stage for what the Scream series would go through in the next 14 years afterwards. So, yeah. Scream 4, good movie. Definitely not as good as the first two movies, but it still beats the ever-loving crap out of Scream 3. No question about that. So, let's move on to our next movie, Robert Redford's latest film, and that is The Conspirator.
Judges, there's no limit to how far the prosecution is willing to go!
There's no limit to how far the prosecution is willing to go! Look, James McAvoy's a great actor and all, but can you just tone it down and tone the overdramatics on that line reading? That's just one of the many problems with this movie. An interesting story, but yeah, like scenes like that, you could tell this film was pushing for an Oscar so goddamn hard, and it's just failing miserably at it. This is a story about Mary Surratt, the only female conspirator charged in the Abraham Lincoln assassination, and the first woman to be executed by the U.S. federal government. You have Robin Wright playing Mary Surratt, together with James McAvoy, Justin Long, Emma Rachel Wood, Jonathan Groff, Tom Wilkinson, Alexis Bledel, Kevin Kline, John Cullum, Toby Kebbell, and James Badge Dale. So a pretty good cast overall here, and directed by Robert Redford, who hasn't made a movie of noteworthiness probably since The Lines for Lambs, which was not a big hit by any means necessary. Excuse me, but I mean, it's definitely a better movie than Lions for Lambs, but at the same time, it's not really doing a whole lot to make it stand out. It's not doing much with the intriguing story that they could do with this, and the actors, like I said, are trying way too hard to push for that Oscar bait. I mean, James McAvoy's line in that trailer alone about the prosecution just made me laugh so hard the first time I saw that. Like, I mean, you're a great actor, dude, but come on, man. You gotta tone it down a little bit here, for the love of God. And really, nobody was really buying into it, per se. It quickly came and went at the box office. Nobody really heard about it anymore. And Robert Redford would have one more chance to kind of reclaim his title once again with The Company You Keep is the next year. But this, yeah, it's definitely a pale comparison to some of his early great works as a director. The ones that we remember him for, Ordinary People, A River Runs Through It, Quiz Show. Those movies, I think, stand out best in terms of his directorial categories. But this, not so much. This is a film that just doesn't work as well as I think they wanted it to. And yeah, it just shows on screen that, yeah, this thing ain't gonna sell to people, so. But at least it tried better than our last movie, and boy, this one, oh boy. Let's talk about the movie that was so important that they had to split it up into two because everybody else was doing it. So, hey, if Twilight's gonna do it and Harry Potter's gonna do it, you're goddamn right we're gonna do it to Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. Oh, this movie is a delight. And by delight, I mean an absolutely horrid movie. If you've never read the book of Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, I'd say be grateful. If anything, you could just go ahead and watch the South Park clip with Officer Bard Brady, and I think that pretty much sums it up for you.
I was happy to be learning how to read. It seemed exciting and magical. But then I read this, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. I read every last word of this garbage, and because of this piece of I'm never reading again!
Hooray for Barbie!
No, seriously, that's how you feel after you read this piece of garbage. Because this book starts off with a 60-page monologue, and then it has a 70-page speech at the end where Ayn Rand is basically just rehashing all the points that she had already beaten to death in this fucking book. I had to read this when I was in school, and let me tell you something, reading this book in school was one of the most torturous things I've ever had to deal with. I mean, that was the worst thing. That was the worst thing. Fuck the bullies, fuck getting teased around. Like, this was the worst thing I had to do when I had to deal with it, when I had to deal with high school. Like, this right here was torture. But as the plot synopsis here says, it was great to be alive once, but the world was perishing. Factories were shutting down, transportation was grinding to a halt, granaries were empty, and key people who had once kept it running were disappearing all over the country. As the lights went down and the cities went cold, nothing was left to anyone but misery. Which is funny, because that's exactly what will happen to you once you read this fucking book, or even watch this movie. No one knows how to stop it. No one understands why it was happening except one woman, the operating executive of a once mighty transcontinental railroad, who suspects the answer may rest with a remarkable invention and the man who created it. A man who once said he would stop the motor of the world. Everything now depends on finding him and discovering the answer to the question on the lips of everyone as they whisper it in fear. Who is John Galt? The better question should be, who gives a fuck? And I love how this plot synopsis on IMDb is a perfect sum up of how much this movie is so far up its own ass. Like, I swear to God, Ayn Rand probably wrote this herself. She may have been, I mean, she's been dead for God knows how long, but she probably figured out how to write movie synopsises and said, fuck it, this is what we're going to do. She died in 1982, and this thing still felt like it was written by her. This movie is unbelievably bad. This is a 3-part movie. So this is supposed to be 3 parts of a film, and it has a runtime of not even an hour and a half, just a little over an hour and a half, and yet it drags on and on and on, and it just like, for the love of God, wrap this up already, Jesus Christ. And it doesn't help that you don't have any big stars in here. I think if your biggest star is Taylor Schilling, pre-Orange is the New Black, then there's probably a problem here. I mean, hey, you got Michael Lerner, who nobody's really heard from in nearly 30 years. John Polito, he was once a respected character actor. Michael O'Keefe, Danny from Caddyshack, is nearly 30 years ago at this point. Armin Shiverman, some of you might know who he is, character actor, but yeah, most of you probably don't. But yeah, this is a terrible movie, and if this is just the first movie, I can't imagine how much worse the other 2 films are going to be, because I've never seen these movies before I started getting ready for this, and watching this one was just torture to watch. This was unbearable inexcusable, just lousy movie, a lousy film that's trying to be considered entertainment. Like, who was this made for, honestly? Like, what person who reads Atlas Shrugged is going to look at this and say, well, I clearly want to see a movie version of this? No one. No one is going to say that, but someone said, we're going to do it anyway, we're going to make 3 movies out of this. Like, just, I think you get the point. Atlas Shrugged, Part 1, it's going to get worse from here, folks, so brace yourselves. We still got 2 more of these pieces of garbage to go over the next 3 years, that's for certain. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll take a look at the 3 films of April 22nd, which includes the latest film from Tyler Perry and Medea's return to the big screen, Medea's Big Happy Family. We also have Robert Pattinson, along with Reese Witherspoon and Christoph Waltz, in Water for Elephants, and we have the latest Disney nature film, African Cats. So we'll take a look at those 3 movies. That'll be coming up tomorrow on the show, so definitely be on the lookout for that. With all that said, thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button, and also don't forget to check out our playlist, and also check out the last episode we did. Now, with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.